Part 1. The Get Back. Just 26 days after FBG Duck was killed, the street struck back. August 30th, 2020 marked the first body, and the target was Delvin Welsh, a 31-year-old tied to O Block. Welsh was chilling under a tent at Lou Pancake's house in Morgan Park when a white SUV rolled up. Out jumped 5 dudes in matching teal and yellow hoodies, and without hesitation, they let the bullets fly. Witnesses said it was a full-on ambush. Welsh was hit multiple times and died on the spot. At first, police tried to float the idea that maybe it was over looted goods, but the streets told a different story. On social media, FBG affiliates made it clear this was for Duck. Welsh's death was mocked online and stamped as revenge. But that was only the beginning. The get back for Duck wasn't stopping at one body. As time passed, the list of targets got longer, and one name started glowing at the top: Dante Banks, better known as OTF D-Thang, the older brother of Lil Durk. For months, tension was building, especially online. A lot of it circled around D-Thang's back and forth with Ruga, Duck's cousin. Things started when Ruga slid into Durk's DMs, calling out lyrics he believed were aimed at Duck on the song Still Runnin' with Lil Baby. Durk rapped, "You do it for what? You better not say that you do it for," then cut the bar with a gunshot sound effect. Based on the rhyme scheme, everyone figured the missing word was Duck. Ruga wasn't letting it slide. He posted the DMs on Instagram and threw more shots at Durk. Durk mostly ignored it, but D-Thang stepped in and started going back and forth with Ruga directly. That back and forth turned deadly on June 5th, 2021. D-Thang was at Club O, a strip club out in Harvey, Illinois. Just after midnight, a fight inside spilled into the parking lot. Chaos erupted, guns went off, a cop got shot in the leg, and in the middle of it all, D-Thang took a bullet to the head. He died right there in the lot.
Multiple shots were fired and lots of weapons were found at the scene. Dante Banks was killed when he was shot in the head. Banks is the older brother of locally known rapper Lil Durk.
And the blood didn't stop there. Not even 10 minutes later, just a short drive from the club, a 39-year-old woman named Seneca Price was gunned down. Cops believed it was instant retaliation. At the time, most people saw D-Thang's death as payback for his social media antics, but later, during the federal trial over Duck's murder, some wild details came out. Court documents show that the phone number Ralph Teasy Turpin used to coordinate the hit on Duck was allegedly D-Thang's. Prosecutors even said D-Thang's baby mama was ready to testify that the number was his. Whether he was aware or not, that tied him directly to Duck's murder, and in the eyes of the opposition, that made him a top target. But the get back didn't stop there. The next person in line was a major figure, Edmund Green, better known as Edai 600. Edai was one of the originals, a drill pioneer and founder of Team 600, a set linked with O Block. His beef with Duck ran deep. It stretched back a decade, fueled by some of drill's most disrespectful diss tracks. Back in 2014, Edai dropped War, where he rapped, "You on that bus stop like Tuka, we put you under the street," a brutal nod to Shondale Tuka Gregory, Duck's friend killed at a bus stop in 2011. In another song, he even threatened Duck directly, "Lil Duck better duck for I dump you and leave you slumped in a trunk." Duck fired back with Edai Is U Serious alongside Billionaire Black, where he spat, "My ninjas told me don't show no sympathy for Edai. I'll chop his body up and throw it on the E-way. I'll murder this little dude like Cassidy did Freeway." Fast forward to July 31st, 2021, Edai was on 72nd and South Bennett when shooters pulled up and lit him up, hitting him in the chest and stomach. He was rushed to the University of Chicago hospital, but didn't make it. Another OG was gone. Years rolled by, but Duck's name still carried weight in the streets. By 2024, the war had reached a level of savagery even veterans of Chicago's drill scene were shocked by. The next major target was a rapper who went by THFTP. He had built his whole brand around disrespecting Duck and his people. What made him stand out wasn't just the usual disses, it was how far he went. One track in particular got him notorious. In it, he mocked the death of Lil Mark from 051 Young Money, a close ally of Duck. Mark was famously killed at a bus stop, and TP turned that into a taunt, rapping about the Lil Mark hit at the bus stop. That line was a jab at the Tuka legacy itself, which was the foundation of Duck's whole identity and movement. But in February 2024, all that disrespect came back on him. Security cameras caught the moment. TP was walking down Madison and Long with his girlfriend and their 2 little kids, fresh from picking them up for school. One of the kids was even holding what looked like a school project. Out of nowhere, 2 gunmen rushed up. They didn't hesitate. They started spraying. TP was hit and dropped right there in front of his family. His girlfriend and 1 child ran for their lives, but the other kid froze, crying and standing right next to his dad's body as the shooters kept firing. The gunmen didn't care that a child was right there. They kept dumping bullets until they were satisfied, then hopped into a white Nissan and sped off. The hit was so ruthless that even people on Duck's side, who had every reason to celebrate, spoke out against it. FBG Butto went on social media and said enough was enough. He condemned the murder happening in front of kids and even offered to pay for therapy for TP's children. Because one thing Duck himself had always been firm on, even when he was alive, was that kids were off limits. He made it clear in interviews, no shootings around kids. That was a line he didn't want crossed. But with TP's death, that line was completely erased. And still, the cycle didn't slow down. A few months later, on May 10, 2025, it was O Block's turn to bleed again. That night, 2 O Block veterans, Duke and Youngin, were out of their usual zone. Instead of the south side, they were in Edgewater, far up north, celebrating a friend's birthday at Pork Drop Barbecue restaurant. When the party wrapped up, they stepped outside. What they didn't know was that at least 2 shooters had been waiting for them to come out. As soon as they hit the street, the ambush started. The gunmen unleashed pure chaos, reportedly firing 50 rounds into the group. Duke and Youngin were both hit and killed instantly. A third man, believed to be Domo from 600, took bullets but survived.
We're told a 28-year-old and a 31-year-old man were both shot and pronounced dead at nearby hospitals.
The reaction online was immediate and telling. Rival sets like STL EBT and Take One World, both allies of Duck, wasted no time trolling, clowning, and mocking O Block over the deaths. For the streets, this was clearly get back for Duck. Drill reporter Truth Teller TV echoed the sentiment, saying it's already talk in the street that this is get back for FBG Duck, and they did this for FBG Duck. Soon after, a photo started making the rounds online. Someone masked up, holding a blood-splattered O Block chain, supposedly snatched off one of the dead bodies. In this world, a chain isn't just jewelry, it's a trophy. To take one off a rival, especially a corpse, is the ultimate humiliation. The photo was like a victory lap for whoever did it, a spit in the face of O Block's pride. But unlike other murders where the line between who did it and who got hit was crystal clear, this one turned murky. Even people from Duck's side were cautious about pointing fingers. FYB J-Main, who had been trying to push for peace, got on his platform and spoke about the killings with a serious tone. He told his followers, it's kinda early to start pointing fingers and all of that. Street rumors quickly split into theories. One theory pointed to Front Street, a set that used to rock with O Block but had since drifted away. Some claimed the masked man in the chain photo wasn't from Duck's camp at all, but from Front Street, suggesting O Block might have been backdoored by their own people. O Block members later tried to shut this down, saying the chain wasn't even Duke's or Youngin's. Another theory pointed to Ghoulie Gang, a different crew altogether. The killer's getaway car, a stolen Infiniti Q50, was found less than 2 hours later, burned out almost 30 miles south of the crime scene, right in Ghoulie Gang's territory. To make things worse, some of their members posted subliminals online, like one with an emoji of 2 fingers up, interpreted by the streets as them claiming 2 kills. But the truth is still buried under layers of lies, speculation, and street politics, but all of it tied back to why Duck was killed in the first place. According to the FBI, the final straw for O Block was Duck's last single, Dead Bitches. In that track, Duck went all in. He broke the truce he once promised about not dissing the dead. He rapped, said I wasn't going to diss the dead, and okay, I did it, before going down the line, naming 9 dead black disciples by name. The most disrespectful was O.D. Perry. Not only was O.D. one of their fallen, but O Block itself was named after him. And O Block wasn't letting that slide. Federal informants later told the FBI that King Von himself funded the move on Duck. They claimed Von put up a $100,000 bounty to get him gone. The receipts were in the flex. Just 10 days after Duck was killed, Von was caught on camera at Icebox Jewelers in Atlanta picking up custom diamond-studded O Block chains. Informants later said those chains were rewards, payment for the shooters who took Duck out. In the weeks that followed, the men who would eventually be convicted of Duck's murder, Marcus "Moo-Wop" Smart and Charles C. "Murda" Liggins, popped up all over social media flaunting those brand new chains. The money had been paid, the job was done, the trophy had been collected. Part 2. The War Unravels. While O Block and its allies were taking heavy losses, Duck's own side wasn't immune. The first big hit on Duck's crew came just 6 months after his death, February 6, 2021. That night, James McGill Jr., better known as BCR Measle, was taken out. Measle was Duck's cousin and one of his closest allies. If Duck was the general, Measle was the lieutenant, the one holding it down after Duck was gone. He was loud about revenge too, dropping diss tracks, sending shots online, making it clear that O Block hadn't heard the last of them. Measle went out in dramatic fashion. He was at a massive party at the Indian Lakes Hotel in Bloomingdale, a spot that had hundreds of people packed into the 5th and 6th floors. Street rumors later said it wasn't random, that he got backdoored, meaning somebody close to him set him up. An altercation broke out in the crowd, shots rang out, and in the chaos, Measle and 5 others were hit. He didn't make it. The irony was that just hours earlier, he had dropped a diss track called Die Why. The intro of the song opened with his mother's voice, literally warning him to stay off social media because his enemies were watching. Hours later, those enemies caught him slipping. The pain for FBG didn't stop there. Fast forward to the summer of 2022, and the gang lost another key soldier, one of their most famous faces outside of Duck himself. June 10, 2022. It was early in the morning, around 5:30 a.m. Tristan Hamilton, better known as FBG Cash, was on the south side in a car with a woman asleep in the passenger seat. Out of nowhere, a black 4-door Cadillac pulled up. The shooters got out, armed with rifles, and opened fire.
31-year-old Tristan Hamilton was shot multiple times. According to the Sun-Times, he raps under the name FBG Cash. A 29-year-old woman with him was also shot.
Cash wasn't new to this. He had his own gun, pulled it, and tried to fire back, but it was no use. He was outnumbered and outgunned. Bullets ripped through him, leaving his body riddled. He was rushed to the hospital but didn't make it. The woman beside him was left clinging to life in critical condition. Another pillar of FBG was gone. But while bodies piled up on both sides, another kind of war was brewing. The FBI had been watching closely ever since Duck's assassination on the Gold Coast. The murder was brazen. Middle of the day in one of Chicago's wealthiest shopping districts, broad daylight, luxury stores on every corner. Using Chicago's vast network of POD cameras and other surveillance, agents started piecing together the shooter's trail frame by frame. They followed the killer's cars from Parkway Gardens, better known as O Block, all the way to Oak Street, where Duck was gunned down, and then back again. It all started at 4:10 p.m. on August 4th, 2020, just 16 minutes before the murder. Cameras inside Parkway Gardens caught the suspects sprinting down a stairwell. Among them, Marcus "Moo-Wop" Smart and Charles C. "Murda" Liggins. From there, the crew split into 2 cars. Smart and another man jumped into a black Ford Fusion. Liggins and 2 others slid into a silver Chrysler 300. Both vehicles rolled out together, caught by multiple cameras across the city. The footage showed them moving in formation, sometimes just 5 seconds apart, a convoy of death cutting through Chicago traffic. When they finally reached Oak Street, the hit went down. Duck was riddled with bullets, his girlfriend and another bystander wounded. The Chrysler 300 was tracked in at least 8 different locations as it sped away. At 4:56 p.m., the car was pulled back into Parkway Gardens. Surveillance caught Liggins stepping out of the passenger seat. The first break in the case came fast. The very next day, Chicago police recovered the Chrysler 300 abandoned in Berwyn. It was towed, and about a week later, on August 13th, the FBI searched it. What they found was damning. Wedged between the hood and the windshield was a spent .357 caliber shell casing. Ballistics testing confirmed it came from the same gun used in the Duck shooting. That was the physical smoking gun they needed. But that wasn't all. Inside the car, agents found something almost too sloppy to believe. A handwritten note. On it were the Facebook and Instagram handles of C. Murda Liggins, plus his phone number. In a federal case where the government already had surveillance, timing, and ballistics, this was the cherry on top. October 13th, 2021. That was the day the hammer dropped. After more than a year of watching, listening, and piecing together the puzzle, the feds moved in on Chicago. Early morning raids, doors kicked in, and in a matter of hours, the main crew tied to FBG Duck's murder was in custody. The indictment was heavy. Charles C. Murda Liggins, Kenneth Kenny Mac Robertson, Christopher C. Thang Thomas, Marcus Muwop Smart, and to Carlos Los Offord, all snatched up. Not long after, a sixth man was added to the list, Ralph Teasy Turpin, the one prosecutors say spotted Duck that day and set the whole thing in motion. According to investigators, Teasy had been the lookout. He allegedly saw Duck shopping on Oak Street and played it slick. He ran into the Montclair store, told security that an armed man was chasing him, and used that as a cover to get on the phone. That call, prosecutors said, went straight to Lil Durk's brother, D-Thang. From there, the hit squad was summoned. That detail ended up connecting the dots in a chilling way. Duck's murder in 2020 and D-Thang's killing the following year suddenly looked like two sides of the same coin. The case went to trial in late 2023, and it was a spectacle. It lasted over 3 months, with the prosecution laying out years of history, drill rap disses, online taunts, shootings, back-and-forth retaliation, painting the picture of an entire culture of war playing out in Chicago's streets and music. But the real nail in the coffin, it was the cameras, the surveillance trail, the POD network, and the digital breadcrumbs these guys left everywhere they went. One of the most dramatic moments came when the prosecutors rolled the security footage from inside the Montclair store. On screen, Teasy could be seen staging his little act, pretending to be chased while in reality, he was buying time to make that fatal call. As that evidence came to light, all eyes turned to the defense table. The other 5 defendants looked at Teasy with pure venom, realizing maybe for the first time that they weren't just soldiers in some street war. They were pawns in Teasy's personal mess. Prosecutors revealed that the beef had started over a woman, and Teasy had used their loyalty to settle his own score. In the gallery, the reaction was just as explosive. Duck's mother, Lashina Weekly, broke down, running out of the courtroom in tears when the Montclair footage played. Another moment that gripped the courtroom came from Cachet Williams, the woman who had been with Duck when the ambush went down. She took the stand and gave a raw, first-person account of the chaos. She described how Duck's gun jammed in the middle of the shooting, how he tried to fight back, but fate gave him nothing. After weeks of evidence, testimony, and cross-examination, it all came down to the jury. They deliberated for 16 hours over 3 days, weighing every shred of proof. On January 17, 2024, the verdict came in, guilty on all counts. All 6 men convicted of murder in aid of racketeering and conspiracy to commit murder. The jury agreed with the government. This was murder carried out as part of O-Block's gang operations. Under federal law, that meant no wiggle room, no reduced sentences. Life in prison, mandatory, without the possibility of parole.
Members of Chicago's O-Block gang have been convicted in the 2020 murder of a rapper known as FBG Duck. 6 convicted suspects are men between the ages of 24 and 34. All 6 were convicted of conspiracy to commit murder and murder in the aid of racketeering.
When the words were read, the weight of it all hit Lashina Weekly. She wept openly in court, then stepped outside to face reporters. 4 years earlier, she had begged for peace, pleading for the violence to stop. Now, with the convictions, she had something she could finally call justice. Her words were heavy but resolute. "When I go home and tell my grandkids that their father's justice has been served, that's going to be a big burden lifted off my shoulders. I just want to thank the United States government for making sure these guys will never hurt another mom and another child again." And just like that, with one decisive blow, the federal government dismantled the crew responsible for one of the most infamous killings in Chicago's drill history. Part 3. The Fallout. Even before the verdict came down in the FBG Duck trial, Lil Durk was already standing in the middle of his own storm. For years, rumors swirled around his name, whispers of indictments, sealed cases, and the feds circling closer. Then in October 2024, it finally happened. Durk was arrested near Miami International Airport, caught right before he could allegedly board a flight. The charge was a federal murder-for-hire conspiracy.
Rapper Lil Durk is charged in a murder-for-hire plot.
Lil Durk's real name is Durk Bank, and he is from Chicago. This is his mugshot from Florida, where he was arrested last night and is being held without bond.
According to prosecutors out of California, Durk had allegedly weaponized his music collective, Only the Family, or OTF. On the surface, OTF was a rap crew, a brand, a movement, but in the federal indictment, they were described as a hybrid organization, equal parts record label and criminal enterprise. And the target of this particular plot was rapper Quando Rondo. The motive was painfully simple and brutally direct: King Von. Back in November 2020, Vaughn, Dirk's close friend, protege, and rising star, had been killed in Atlanta after a fight outside a nightclub spiraled into gunfire. Quando Rondo's camp was on the other end of that shooting. For Dirk, prosecutors argued the loss wasn't just personal, it demanded retaliation. The indictment laid out a scheme in chilling detail. It claimed Dirk signed off on a plan to fly 5 OTF-linked men from Chicago to California with one mission: track down Rondo and kill him. To do it, the feds say, they even used a credit card tied to OTF. And Dirk himself, prosecutors pointed to a text message sent around the same time from a number they linked to him. The message read, "Don't book no flights under no names involved with me." The plot didn't go off exactly as intended, but it was still deadly. On August 19, 2022, just before 5 a.m., Rondo's car was ambushed at a gas station in West Hollywood. Witnesses said the attackers jumped out and sprayed at least 18 shots into the vehicle. Rondo somehow walked away without a scratch, but his cousin, 24-year-old Xavier Robinson, wasn't so lucky. He was hit and killed on the spot.
Shots fired, a fight taken to the streets, and this chaotic scene, the ending of a shooting that started in Los Angeles, California. Sheriff's deputies pulling out a man who had been shot in an SUV. Savannah rapper Quando Rondo, a passenger in that car, frantic at the sight.
The U.S. attorney in Los Angeles called it a cold-blooded murder that put innocent people at risk at one of the busiest neighborhoods in the city. When the feds finally swooped in 2 years later, they claimed Dirk was preparing to run. Court filings said he had booked flights to Switzerland and Dubai and even had a private jet lined up for Italy on the very day of his arrest. But that wasn't the end of it. While the West Coast case made headlines, another, even more explosive set of allegations surfaced back home. In December 2024, unsealed federal documents revealed that prosecutors were tying Dirk directly to yet another killing, this one deeply personal and directly connected to the cycle of retaliation that started with FBG Duck. The victim was Stefan Mack, better known in the streets as the leader of Smashville, a faction of the Gangster Disciples. According to investigators, Mack was the suspected shooter in the murder of OTF D-Thang, Dirk's brother, who had been killed outside a Chicago nightclub in 2021. D-Thang's death itself was seen as revenge for Duck. Now, prosecutors said Dirk had ordered his own revenge against Mack. The feds accused Dirk of putting money on Mack's head, hiring 2 men, Anthony Montgomery Wilson and Preston Powell, to carry out the hit. Mack was gunned down in 2022. And here's where it got even messier. The confession wasn't hidden in some sealed affidavit or jailhouse snitch statement. It was hiding in plain sight in Dirk's own music. Shortly after Mack's death, Dirk dropped his track, Aha. In it, he spit, "My brother D-Thang just got killed and I've been slow since, but we got back on the I bet they know this." At that point, the war had evolved into something bigger. Millions of dollars in rap money, all of it was now being painted by the government as fuel for a criminal machine. The same fame and fortune that had elevated these artists into global superstars were being flipped against them in court, used as proof that music and murder were moving hand in hand. This explosive idea that rap music wasn't just art, but a weapon fueling real violence, didn't stop in the courtroom with Duck's killers. It became the centerpiece of a whole new legal battle, one led by the Lashina Weekly, FBG Duck's mother. In 2024, Weekly made headlines when she filed a massive wrongful death lawsuit, and she didn't just go after the shooters, she went after the machine. The lawsuit named Lil Durk, the estate of King Von, and, most controversially, the record label powerhouses behind them, Sony Music and Universal's Interscope. Her argument was that these billion-dollar corporations weren't just passive bystanders profiting off drill music. They were active players, pumping money into the very violence that took her son's life. The complaint spelled it out. These labels had fueled, financed, and promoted gang warfare because controversy, beef, and bloodshed meant one thing in the streaming era: more clicks, more views, more sales. In her words, they had turned a deadly street war into a marketing plan. The case instantly put the entire drill industry on trial. And really, this wasn't a new debate, it was one that had been bubbling under the surface for years. Was drill music simply holding up a mirror, giving an unfiltered look at the realities of neighborhoods drowning in violence? Or was it glamorizing the very cycle it claimed to document, turning real deaths into entertainment? Some of hip-hop's sharpest minds weighed in. Chicago legend Lupe Fiasco, a Grammy winner, a professor at MIT, and someone who had watched the drill movement grow from the same city that birthed him, didn't mince words. Speaking at Harvard, he laid it bare. "You're all dancing on graves. People are dying." New Orleans rapper D1, who had become a fellow at Harvard himself, echoed the sentiment. For him, the problem was how numb the culture had gotten. The way he saw it, the music wasn't just documenting violence, it was normalizing it, making people desensitized to lyrics that openly celebrated killing. But there was pushback too. Academics and activists warned that putting drill on trial was a dangerous path. Professor Forrest Stewart of Stanford, who spent years studying drill rappers in Chicago, pointed out that prosecutors were already weaponizing the music against young black men. Lyrics, Instagram lives, old YouTube clips with fake guns, things that might once have been seen as performance or self-expression were now being dragged into courtrooms as if they were sworn confessions. For critics, blaming the music wasn't just unfair, it was giving the state more ammo to lock people up. Weekly's lawsuit wasn't happening in a vacuum. Across the country, a similar fight was already playing out in Los Angeles. The family of Draco the Ruler, the West Coast rapper stabbed to death backstage at a festival, had filed a $20 million wrongful death suit against concert giant Live Nation, accusing them of failing to protect him. Suddenly, the conversation had outgrown Chicago. This was no longer just about O Block and FBG, about disses on songs and get-back shootings. It was about whether corporations worth billions could keep hiding behind the idea of art while funding a culture of death.